Bruchim Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, 10 lines from the top. Our Mishnah starts off by saying that we're talking about concerns of something leading to chametz, and therefore you cannot put flour inside of charoises or inside of chardal on Pesach. The Seif of the Mishnah also talks about this inyan of something that will lead to chametz. Somebody who is a baker, he cannot put his hands, he normally puts his hands in water while he's baking. That water, since it has remnants of pieces of dough, must be poured out. The Reisha and the Seifa sandwich in what's in the middle of the Mishnah to be something that's not really connected, l'chara. It's talking about a case where a korban Pesach, you cannot cook it inside of juices, either fruit juices or one of the 7 mashkin, like wine or oil. And therefore, what is the connection? That's Tosas asked the question. And some of the Psachim explain like this: since the Reisha, the Mishnah is talking about not taking flour and putting it inside of charoises or inside of chardal, the Mishnah goes on to say, even if you're going to then take and bask the korban Pesach with chardal or with charoises, as charif as it may be, it is still permissible. You just cannot bake the korban Pesach, but to bask, to put a layer of these fruit juices, including chardal or including charoises, and put it on top of the animal of the korban, and then roast it, that's going to be sufficient. So the connection is, even though you might have thought that when it comes to these type of things, the chardal and the charoises, it's excluded from the heter of shar mashkin that could be used to bask the korban Pesach with. Kamash malan, the Mishnah says you can. Ton Rabbanan, the Gemara brings a brayso quoting the pasuk, which I'm going to read in its entirety. In regards to the korban Pesach, Al toichlu mimenu no, do not eat from it, the korban Pesach, if it's only partially roasted. Uboshel mevushal, but you should cook it b'mayim. Or cook it in mayim, which would be prohibited to eat. Ki im tzli'esh roishay al krov al kirboy. It must be eaten rather only if it's completely roasted. So here we have the Torah telling you cannot eat it if it is partially roasted or if it is cooked. Says that the Brayso Ton Rabbanan b'mayim. Ainli ella b'mayim. I only know you cannot cook it in water. Shar mashkin minayim. Where do I know other mashkin that you cannot, as the Mishnah states? Omarta kal v'chomer. It's a kal v'chomer. As follows: Uma mayim she'ein mafigin tamen asurin. If water does not take away the taste of the korban Pesach, and still it's prohibited to cook in water. Shar mashkin shemafigin tamen lo kol shekain. Certainly shar mashkin, which does take away some of the taste of the korban Pesach, certainly then therefore you cannot go ahead and cook it. Rabbi argues and says b'mayim. It says in the pasuk b'mayim, you cannot cook it in water. Ainli elamayim, I only know water. Shar mashkin, how do I know you cannot cook it in other fruit juices or in one of the shiva mashkin? Tamulomer uboshel mevushal mikol makom. The pasuk says a double lashon. You cannot cook boshel or mevushal, meaning in any way, including in fruit juices. My beinayu, what is the difference? After all, they're both excluding mashkin. Says the Gemara Ike beinayu tzli kedar. Tzli kedar means you take the korban and you put it inside of a pot without any water whatsoever, and it is then cooked in its own juices. According to Tana Kama, so that's not excluded because it's not excluded from the kal v'chomer. Whereas according to the opinion of Rebbe, since it says mevashel mevushal mikol makom, then it's even including that which is being cooked on its own juices, and therefore a tzli keder would be then prohibited. V'rabbanan hay boshel mevushal may avdilahu. What did the Rabbanim do with the double lashon of the pasuk that Rebbe used? Answers the Gemara mi boile. The Rabbanan need it for the following. Lekidetanya, it says bishloi v'achakach tziloi. If one cooked the carbon pesach and then roasted it, or the opposite order, oitzol shetzoloi v'achakach bishloi chayiv. He's going to be chayiv if he eats such a carbon, because the pasuk says lo soichlu, you shall not eat. And here he's learning a double lashon, basha mevushal, whereby it's coming to include even if it was cooked and then roasted, or roasted and then cooked. Ask the Gemara, bishlama bishloi v'achachach sloi chayiv. I understand if it was first cooked and then it was roasted, that he's chayiv, because it was be'etzem, it was first cooked. So therefore the fact that it was roasted afterwards doesn't have any bearing, whereby he's chayiv. However, because the habashlei elad sloi v'achach bishloi hatzli eshu amai. But if he first roasted it and then cooked it, why is he chayiv for that? Hooray, it was roasted. Omar Rav Kehan, Rav Kana comes to explain, Hamani Rabbi Yosihi. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yosi that says even after something that was roasted, if it was cooked afterwards, it's considered to be cooked. In other words, it uproots the original roasting. The Tanya, for it states in the Brisa, Yoitzin, here he's talking about matzah, Yoitzin berekik hasharoi, umevushal, shelo nimuach, di Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says one can be yoitze his achilas matzah with wafers that were soaked in water, or wafers that after it was baked, it was cooked, providing that it's not in pieces, it still has its form. Those are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yosi oimer yoitzin berekik hasharoi. That I agree that if you have the wafers, the matzah, and you put it into water, you can be yoitze yidei chayvaso with that. Avaloi b'mevushal, afishalo nimuach. But not if it was cooked afterwards, because the cooking, according to Rabbi Yosi, uproots the baking that was done before. So to over here, the fact that it was first roasted, if it was baked afterwards, it uproots the roasting, and therefore it's considered to be baked. Whereby if a person eats some sort of carbon, he's chayiv. Ula Omar, afilu Tamar Meir. Ula comes and says, even Rabbi Meir would say that he's chayiv over here when it comes to Korban Pesach. Why? Because shiny hacha, domar kor ubosha mevushal mikol makom. Granted, when it comes to matzah, he says that the bishul, that uproots the afiyah of the matzahs. But when it comes to Korban Pesach, since there's a double lashon, it requires that it only be mavushal. And the fact that it was first roasted and then it was cooked, that's excluded, and therefore be chayiv. The Gemara brings a brayse, tonu rabbanon, yochot sloi kol tzarko yechayiv. I might think that one who eats kol tzarko, if it was completely roasted, completely roasted, then he would be chayiv. Talmud loymar, al toichlu mimenu no, ubosha mevushal b'mayim. It says in the pasuk, you shall not eat that which is partially roasted, and that which was cooked. No ubishal mevushal amarti lecha, v'lo shesolo kol tzarkoi. That which is only partially roasted or cooked is going to be then chayiv, but not that which is completely roasted. Ask him, Hechi Dami, what does it mean completely roasted? Answers the Gemara Amar Rav Ashi, the Shavya Charucha. It's completely charred. Then it's completely charred. If he eats it, he will not be chayiv. It's not included in the pasuk. Tonu Rabbanon, the Gemara brings another brayso. Yochel ochal kazayis cha yechayiv. I might think one who eats a kazayis of this carbon, if it's raw, he's going to be chayiv. Talmud loymar al toichlu mimenu no ubosha mevushal. On that, the pasuk says, you shall not eat that which is partially roasted or that which is cooked. And therefore, no ubisha amarti lecha v'lo chai. Again, it's only can include the prohibition of eating a partially cooked or that which is cooked, partially roasted, or that which is cooked in water. But if it's raw, it's not going to be included. Yacha yeh mutar. I might think, however, it is mutar. Talmud loymar ki im tzli eish. Therefore, the pasuk goes on to say, Ki im sli eish. Now, the verse begins by saying, Al toichlu, you shall not eat. It goes on to say, that which is partially roasted, that which is cooked in water. And then it goes on at the end to say, Ki im sli eish. So therefore, it's not permissible to eat raw of the Korban Pesach. It won't be chayiv malchus, because this Tana holds that it's a lav shebeklolos, and therefore lav shebeklolos is not chayiv malchus, but it's not permissible. Ask the Gemara, hechi dami? No. What is considered to be no? The pasuk says you cannot eat that which is no, which is partially roasted. What's considered to be partially roasted? Omarav kidamrei parsoi abarnim. They said in their language, in Farsi, in Persian, abarnim, which really means the same thing. It's partially roasted. So therefore it's considered to be somewhat raw. That cannot be then eaten. But it's not raw fully. It's just partially roasted. Omar Rav Chisda said, Hamevashil bechame teveria, b'shabis potter. He says one who cooks in the hot springs in Teveria on Shabbos would be potter. To be chayiv a korban chatos on Shabbos, one has to cook, and therefore this is not considered to be cooking. So therefore he's potter. Pesach shebishlo bechame teveria chayiv. However, if a person who then is going to then eat a kazayis of korban Pesach that was cooked in the hot springs of Teveria, would be chayiv. Ask the Gemara, Maishno b'Shabbos deloy. How come when it comes to Shabbos he's going to be potter? When it comes to then Pesach he's going to be chayiv. Answer the Gemara, to told us eish ba'in v'leka. In Shabbos to be chayiv a korban chatas for bishul, it has to be either fire itself or told us eish, or something that's heated up by a fire, to exclude that which is going to be from the sun or heated up by the sun. And since it's Chame Teveria, the hot springs of Teveria are hot because of the sun, therefore he's not going to be chayiv chatos for then cooking it in the waters of the Teveria. Ask the Gemara, then Pesach Nami Lav told us Eshu. If that's the case, then why is one chayiv for eating a korban Pesach that was cooked in the Chame Teveria? It's also not considered to be the tolda of Eish. It comes from tolda de Chama, whereby it's not considered to be bishul. The same definition we're using. Omar Rava said, "My chayiv diktani." What is it meant when it says chayiv for eating a kazayis of a korban pesach that was cooked in the Chame Teveria? The ka'ovra mishum tzli eish is because it's chayiv for the lav shebeklolos. This Tana holds that since it says lo toichlu, you shall not eat, and it goes on to say that which is partially roasted, that which is cooked in water, and then goes on to say that which is, except that which is completely, that is roasted on the fire. And here, since it's cooked in the Chame Teveria, it's not roasted on the fire, therefore it's going to be chayiv chatas. Again, according to chayiv malchus. According to this Tana, a lav shebeklos is chayiv malchus. In other words, there's a machloikis tanoim, whether we say a general lav, in this case, ki'im sli eish, is going to be included in the prohibition that will be chayiv malchus or not. So this one does hold. The previous Tana held that you do not chayiv malchus for a lav shebeklolos. Rav Chia b'reid Rav Nosin masni l'lahash de Rav Chisda behedya. He taught Rav Chisda as saying this explicitly, that a lav shebeklolos will be chayiv malchus, as follows: Omer Rav Chisda hamavashya bechame Teveria, one who cooks the korban pesach in Chame Teveria, or in general cooks, if it's b'Shabbos potter. If he cooks in the Chame Teveria on Shabbos, he will not be chayiv chatas, it's potter. Again, because in regards to cooking on Shabbos, it requires either eish or tolda de eish. And this Chame Teveria is considered to be tolda de chama. Upesach shebishla b'Chame Teveria chayiv. And that which one cooks a korban pesach in the Chame Teveria will be chayiv a set of malchus if he eats a kazayis of the korban pesach that was cooked in the Chame Teveria. She'over mishum tzli eish, because he's over the tzli eish, the prohibition of the lav shebeklolos. So Reb Chisda holds that indeed a lav shebeklolos is chayiv a set of malchus. Omar Rava said, Ochlu no, one who eats partially roasted, on top of Mem Aleph Amud Beis, Loikish time. Rava says he's going to be chayiv 2 sets of malchus. One for the fact that he was over the prohibition, Lo soichlu no, you shall not eat that which is partially roasted. And a second one for eating that which is not cooked and that which is not roasted. It says ki'im tzli'esh, and that is a lav shebeklolos. So Rava holds that lav shebeklolos he's chayiv for as well. Mevushal loikish time. Similarly, if he eats that which is cooked in water, he's going to be chayiv time. One for eating a kazais that's cooked in water, as well as for the fact that it's a lav shebeklolos, it wasn't considered to be ki'im tzli'esh. No umavushal loikish shalish. Rava goes on to say, if he eats a kazais of no and a kazais of mavushal, he's going to be chayiv 3 times. One for the no, one for the mavushal, one for the lav shebeklolos of ki'im tzli'esh. Abai argues and says, Ein loikin alav shebeklolos. One is not going to get malchus for the lav shebeklolos. The question, what did Abaye mean to say? Did he mean to say that one will only get 1 set of malchus for the fact that he ate mavushal or ate no, but not for the lav shebeklolos? Or did he mean to say that in a scenario where it would be, let's say, raw, and he would not be chayiv for the specific lavim of no and mevashel and mavushal, but he would be chayiv a lav shebeklolos of ki'im tzli'esh? So there's 2 different lashonos here. Ikadami, there are those that say tarti hu deloi loki chadami loki. He will not get 2 malchus for mavushal and for ki'im tzli'esh, because ki'im tzli'esh is a lav shebeklolos, and therefore since he's already getting a set of malchus for the specific lav mavushal, he's not going to get the malchus for the lav shebeklolos. However, chadami loki, he will get 1, and therefore in the scenario that it was raw, and he would not get even for the lav specifically of mavushal, he will get for the lav shebeklolos of ki'im tzli'esh. The other lashon of the Gemara is that Abai is saying that you will never get a set of malchus for a lav shebeklolos, and therefore even if it's raw, he will never get malchus, not even for the lav shebeklolos of ki'im tzli'esh. Why? Because it was not specified like the lav de bechasima. The Torah says that for a person to get a set of malchus for a lav has to be dumya, has to be similar to the prohibition of lo sachsam. Since the Torah writes in regards to the malchus, it writes right away, it juxtaposes that to the case of lo sachsam shor b'dishoy. One should not muzzle his animal when he is then threshing. That's the classical lav that's chayiv malchus. So it has to be a lav that's doimen to lav shebechasima. And therefore, since the lav shebeklolos is a general lav, it's not a specific lav like the lav shebechasima, therefore will not be mechayiv malchus.